What's up, y'all? It's your boy Ideal Tone, and I'm here to make it known that we are back, and this is another video. So, I have been playing Monster Hunter Wilds for the last few weeks, and I definitely wanted to do like an actual video about it. So, this is my take on what I think about Monster Hunter Wilds, okay? So, let's go for this ride. Let's talk about it, and join me on this as I talk about not only the story, but the aspects of the game and what I find interesting about it, and not only my own opinion of it, as well as what I would rate it as a game. So, without further ado, let's dive on in. So, as you can see, like the story starts off with like the intro video and everything. Like we definitely have tied into the beta before, but this is like the beginning aspect of it. As you can see, there's a thrashing monster in the very beginning scene, and it's very fuzzy. Like you can't make out the monster completely. But we all know this if you played the beta to be the flagship monster for the game, Arkveld. And right now, this is just a cutscene of the young boy Nata, who we've helped or are in the process of helping throughout the game. And this is his people, the people of his, his nation, his culture, which are called the Keepers. And right now they're in the process of getting him to safety, because what had happened was the Arkveld, which we have no reason as to why yet, decided to go on a rampage, start thrashing in the process of getting them in trouble, putting them in danger, et cetera, et cetera. And the best thing for them to do is get the youngest person with them to safety, which is Nata at this point. And fast forward just a little bit, we come to the Hunters Guild, who are in the middle of an expedition just doing regular research, and they come across Nata stranded in the desert. He did manage to escape, but at this point he's stranded. They're trying to help the young boy and figure out what happened to him potentially and where he's from, because according to their knowledge, in the Wilds wasteland there is no culture, there is no people living, no villages, nothing there as far as they are aware, because they have never actually ventured into this area to really do expeditions, because it is known as the Wilds, a wasteland where monsters just reign and rule. So they come to find Nata, take care of him, try to figure out where, and now in the process, the next step is for us to help him get back home, find out where he's from, and find out why he ended up in the situation he ended up in. Now, one of the coolest things about Monster Hunter, always hands down, is the character customization, which I can say for certain as a fact that the character customization has leveled up from previous games. In all honesty, okay. As you can see here, I got my character, I got my Palico, but obviously I want to tweak them, make them more something similar to what I think my ideal hunter would look like if I were a hunter, et cetera, et cetera. So, we worked through it, and the customization is phenomenal in this. And as you can see here, this was the final outcome for my character. I did a little tweaking, gave him some locks, which I'm very excited the fact that they've added more hairstyles, especially locks, into the game, because the previous game was Rise. The only thing that had closest to a black hairstyle was an afro, in my opinion. So, but yeah, or a low cut. I went with the afro. But yeah, and then just the makeup, his body, his physique, and then you can move on to the Palico from here. And then this is the Palico that I ended up coming up with. And I decided, then from there, you got the names. You can get 15 characters for each name. All right. I decided to come up with, my own unique name, but throwing a little anime vibe up in there. And with that being said, this is what we came up with: Hiroshi Sungjin Woo. And here's the thing about Hiroshi Sungjin Woo. Hiroshi Sungjin Woo is part of the Hiroshi clan. It's just something that I came up with since the first Monster Hunter game I've ever played. The Hiroshi clan is a legacy of phenomenal clan phenomenal monster hunters. Okay, they produced some of the greatest monster hunters ever, and that's the idea I came up with just for my own interest in the game and something I wanted to do to make it a little more fun for me. So we've had every character I've ever created has been from the Hiroshi clan. So in Japanese culture, last name is always first. So that's why I did Hiroshi Sungjin Woo. His first name is Sungjin Woo, last name is Hiroshi. So I did it in that fashion. And then you're also able to name your Palico. I've always come up with different names for my Palico, and this time I wanted to come up with something way more different than what I'm used to coming up with. So we decided to name my Palico Tsukuyomi. All right, Tsukuyomi. I like that. I really decided to give my Palico more of a female aspect. I love my Palico. My Palico is, in this game, has saved me multiple times. It's always been there for me. And then we get to here. This is the point where now we're at this point where we did the beta. Okay, this is the part where we did the beta. All right, chapter 1, Desert Trotters. We're going to the desert trying to save this little girl on back of our Secrets. Secrets are our form of mountain transportation in this game, which has become more and more something in the Monster Hunter games since World. We had the Trailblazers or Trail Raiders and something like that in World, and then we got our Palamutes in Rise, and now in Wilds we got the Secrets. So definitely a great aspect. Secrets are very useful within this game, and I'm kind of glad that they added them just along with the Palamutes. I wish they were helpful in battle along with the Palamutes, because the Palamutes will be helpful in battle as well as a mount, but that's just something that that I wish they did. But yeah, so we end up doing the first mission, and the first mission's goal was literally to save the girl who is being chased by these monsters on her secret. And then the second half of that was literally taking down our first actual monster in order to protect the little girl who we saved, as well as her, and rescue her brother who she got separated from. And in doing so, we end up befriending them, so that way we can access their village as well as and have them come back to our base and start that connection. This is where we realize that there are, and even more so, that there are people in multiple communities living in this area, this place we call the Wilds, which we thought there were no culture. There was no culture. There was no villages, no races, nothing of the sort of humanity. We just thought it was a wasteland full of monsters. And then from that point on, it's literally us just going through the campaign of the story, which the campaign of the story, the main campaign, is very, very interesting in my opinion. It's the first story in a while for Monster Hunter that I felt was like something that I wasn't expecting, but it was intriguing and interesting, and it kept me hooked. Not to say that I didn't enjoy any previous storylines before this, but I felt like there was something for us that we were actually doing, because compared to World, we were on a mission to just check the migrational pattern of an elder dragon called Zora Magdaros, which, like, yeah, cool, that's a mission, that's something that we could do and everything, but like, it wasn't something that we really had to do, something we really had to act on. We didn't have to be involved in anything like that. Whereas this is a direct line, or not direct line, but this is something direct on what we have to do. This is actual directive and mission. It's to get this boy home safe and sound to his people and find out what caused him to be separated from his people. That's the actual directive in my opinion. And I like that aspect that they did that. And as we progress through the story, we learn more and more, not only about where he comes from, but at the same time, the other races and villages and cultures in this land. Another thing that I really like about this game is how expansive it is. There's not just the wastelands or the wild part or the desert area, if I'm, being correct, trying to be, explain that part. There's also other lands, and you can traverse these lands as you see fit through the map itself, which is really cool. Normally it wasn't like that. Like the lands weren't connected in previous games like this. But now you can travel through the lands as you see fit, which is really cool in my opinion. Which makes it more open world aspect. You have where we're headed, where you see in this clip right now, we're headed to the jungle or the forest land, right, from the desert, which is connected to the desert. All right, which you meet another form of culture, which is a more of a animalistic culture that learned to speak our tongue, called the Woodwoods. The Woodwoods are really amazing, funny creatures. I love them. Their speech pattern is hilarious. I'm glad they were added into the game because it was definitely something that was really cool. But this jungle is very lush. It's green. It does hold a variety of different monsters compared to the wastelands. But as you can see, because they are connected, some of these monsters spill over into the wastelands and vice versa. And then from there, the next area that we get to is, I believe it was called the Everforge, or, well, that's the name of, it's called the Oil Well Basin area. And it has this thing called the Everforge. Okay. And this is another village where they do mining. Okay. And they have their own different ecosystem full of monsters as well that pertain to mining and heat. So it's really cool aspect, and especially the way their village is built, because their villages here is built out of brimstone, minerals, and etc. And they have their own unique culture where it comes to them producing these minerals every year, especially during like this big festival that they have where they light the Everforge every year, or it lights itself, something along those lines. But it's very intriguing to see the different cultures and aspects. And then from this point, and now you get to the next thing, which is the transverse area from the oil well basin on the way to where we would call the next village. And right here, you can see this is us leaving the mining village, also known as the oil well basin, and we're on our way to go to the transverse the next area to get to the next village, which we're not sure where this path leads just yet. But when we get there, you understand that we're getting to the village that is not where Nata is from, or that's where we're headed to. But in order to get there, we have to transverse not only a fiery brimstone underbelly of the oil well basin, but then as you transverse, you realize, okay, there's a colder aspect now. Now we're heading through a place where it's nothing but tundra. So as you can see, as we progress, each thing or each part of this world or this culture or this environment, I should say, goes from one extreme to the next. It's really cool, but I like that. And as you can see right here, this is where I was telling you guys about that we're transversing. This is the colder environment area. It's so cold. You definitely have to make sure you have like a hot drink with you. Otherwise, you will not survive. And as well as the previous area where you're in the fiery brimstone of the underbelly, you want to make sure you have a cool drink in those lava set places, just to keep yourself, from taking additional damage, especially if you run into any monsters. This story gets very, you're always making these encounters with these monsters as you progress through this story. So we eventually find Nata's village, run into his uncle. His uncle gives us the full rundown. Okay, why Arkveld is the way it is and why it's acting the way it is, the White Wraith, as they call it. It's because and it's not only one of its kind in the regard that they're talking about. The keepers come from an ancient race of beings or humans that created so much for this land, especially this one device that powers the land itself in all aspects, from the wilds to the oil well basin to the forest, everything, including their village. And it makes this thing called Wilk, which is a power source for all of them, whether it be for lighting fires, using as an instrument to create things, whatever. But it's not only that, it also energizes what the keepers ancestors created, which are the guardians. The guardians are the monsters that their ancestors created that live in their land, and they protect their land. But the thing is, as time progressed and their ancient race disappeared and went extinct and became who they are today as the keepers, and they lost a lot of their knowledge of the technology or how to utilize it or whatever, the monsters no longer started to continue to obey them. And Arkveld is one of those that went on an even further rampage / evolution. Arkveld started doing things that Guardians never do. Guardians were never able to reproduce, consume. They never ate. They just absorbed the energy from their land that they lived in order to survive. They didn't need any other form of consumption in order to live and survive. But Arkveld started to evolve, mutate, and this is the story that we now know. And that's why I really think this is one of the most interesting stories ever. Like, there was an ancient race that actually created their own monsters based off regular monsters and to create them as guardians to protect their land. And now one of them has decided to mutate and become its own being and progress, and no longer needs to its former way of survival. It indulges in everything as a normal monster would, but because it has no restraints as a normal monster would, it's losing its way and destroying the ecosystem that it dwells in, because it's attacking everything not out of instinct for food, but it's attacking everything just out of pure pleasure and just to do it. It's really like losing its mind and becoming more maddening as a monster, and also in losing its way. So we have to put it down. And as you see right now, like, this is the battle where we actually fight Arkveld in order to, bring it down once and for all, so that it no longer will destroy the ecosystem and harm others. But as always, in all Monster Hunter game fashion, no matter the storyline, there is always a flagship monster that you have to defeat. But that is never the big bad or the end of it. Right now, this is the big bad that came after Arkveld that we have to fight. This creature is called Right, the name of this creature, I'm sorry, I was starting a little bit. It's called Zoshia. Zoshia is the big bad of this game. And when I tell you this fight was amazing, it was amazing. All right, the mechanics that you have for her is so unique from what we've used to. Not to mention, okay, this was one of the most entertaining and physically visual monsters that I've loved in a long time. Like, she's so unique in the way she moves and interacts, and also just like how you, in order to defeat her, what you have to do. I love this fight, and she's so unique looking. Look at her, beautiful, big, all right, covered in pure crystal, and you have to destroy the crystal in order to damage her actual physical form. And let me tell you this, it was not easy. It was not easy at all. But once you defeat Zoshia, obviously that's not the end of the game. It never is. There's more things to do. You got to rank up in Monster Hunter, more expeditions, more monsters that come out in order for you to fight as you reach high rank. And, it's just one of them games that you can continue playing and farming until you make more weapons, armor, etc., until, the next monster comes out, which there's always a free DLC or a free DLC when it comes to just individual monsters. And then there's always the big paid expansion that you could do. So Monster Hunter is always one of them games where you'll constantly have something to do and be interactive in the game. Okay. Not to mention just like the different things you can do with armor and weapons. Not to mention in this game, they have the new weapon crafting system, which you can always craft weapons, but I'm talking about a legit weapon crafting system. And this is what I mean by the crafting system. This is our smithy, okay? Gemma, she's really good at what she does. Cute to boot. It's like, no, I'm just joking. But like, in all seriousness though, okay, you come to her, she has everything you need when it comes to weapons. As always, we have the 14 set of weapons. You know me, I've always been a longsword user, but I've been dabbling now that you can take 2 weapons out into the field as well as sword and shield and be getting them hits in. All right. And then you just have the armor system. You have low and high rank armor. Okay, and when you get the high rank armor, you definitely want to make sure you get to that part where you make your rarity 8 sets, rarity 8 sets, and rank them up as high as you can. Me, I decided to go with the Guardian Arc Veiled armor set, and I'm probably going to make the and I did the A armor, the B armor set, and I'm probably going to make the A armor set as well, and see if I can make some combinations between the two of them, just for more versatility. And then, like I said, you have the different variant weapons through the tree. All right. Yeah. For long swords, you have your different variation of poison, ice weapons, fire, thunder weapons, and you also have very different weapons when it comes to the different types of monsters you're facing. Because you also have, for example, all right, you have the Rathalos tree. Well, this is the Guardian Rathalos tree. The Guardian Rathalos tree weapons vary from the normal Rathalos tree, which you can also get right here. Okay, they vary. They're pretty similar when it comes to what they can do, obviously, and stat wise, but they do have different things when it comes to their stats. I have noticed like the attack might not be the same, isn't the same as the Guardian one, and they do look different, or the affinity or the firepower, or when I say firepower, I'm talking about the element. So those do vary. So, and then just the gem slots that you can attach them, not as well as the sharpness. So it also goes based off what you need at the moment and what you think is going to be more beneficial based off your armor set combined with it, as well as your abilities that come with the armor set and the blade itself and the weapons that you're using as well. Not to mention any gems that you slot in to up your yourself and your abilities and damage, as well as keeping yourself alive. We also got to take into the new weapon crafting system that I was talking about. Okay, artisan weapons or artesian weapons. I'm not really sure how to properly say it, but you have you can forge these weapons. Okay, and now this is what I mean by a legit weapon crafting system. Okay, for different weapons, you can take different parts, and you get these different parts from in-game content from after the main story, where you fight tempered monsters, and the higher ranked tempered monster you fight, the higher ranked pieces that you get when doing these expeditions and investigations for these monsters. Okay, then you can get like the broken blades, you can get cracked discs, crushed tubes, rusted devices, etc. And these different things make different weapons. For example, if you wanted to make, I don't know, a poison sword, long sword, you need a poison blade, you need a poison tube, and you need another tube. Now here's the thing, it don't all have to be poison related, but you need at least 2 weapons to be poison in order for it to work. Okay, now if you can get all 3 together, let's say you can get all 3 poison, a poison blade, 2 tubes, you can create a more powerful poison blade. Yes. The thing is though, when you're doing this, okay, you also want to take into account what each poison item has. For example, here the poison blade has attack infusion, the second poison tube has attack infusion, and then the third poison tube, or not poison tube, the third tube, which is water tube, has attack infusion. You can get around that. Let's say if I was to do a water blade. Okay, see, now it has an affinity infusion and it's a water weapon now. Okay, it's a water longsword. And you can do that and see how now everything changes in the tree. Okay, when it comes, and now it has a higher affinity, a different element, and a pretty good attack stat. So normally when you're making these weapons, you want to go for whatever you really do. If you're doing for a more high affinity build to get more damage out on wounds and etc. like that, or weakened or weakness locations, definitely go for affinity. If you're trying to just deal out damage at a crazy rate, attack. Or if you want to do a more balanced build, obviously there is a more balanced build, which I just made, which has good affinity as well as attack and elemental power. So, and not to mention the sharpness is pretty good too. And then when you create the higher artesian weapons, which is the rarity 8 ranks, you get 3 tier 3 automatic gem slots. And then as you upgrade the artesian weapons, which you can also do by having the special minerals that you can use to reinforce them, you could upgrade them to be more powerful. Right here, for example, I upgraded my dragon artesian longsword, and as you can see, it has more attack and everything regarding that because I upgraded it. It's very powerful. And I'm planning on making it more powerful. You can rank up all these weapons all the way to level 5, rank 5, as far as it is as far as what the game allows you to do right now. So just bearing that stuff in mind. Like yeah, the weapon crafting system in this game is something new and very intriguing. I like it a lot. I really do. But really, that's pretty much it. The game itself is not as intense as one might think. There have been more intense and harder Monster Hunter games in the past, but I feel like this game is a perfect game for someone who is new to Monster Hunter to really dive into, and then maybe later on go experience the older games, World, Rise, maybe even older games to that if you want to. That's up to you. But this is definitely a first player game that I would like. If it's your first time in Monster Hunter, this is definitely the game that I would probably start with, especially since I feel that, in my personal opinion, the monsters in World do hit harder. The monsters in Rise may not have hit as hard as they did in World, but I feel like they were a little more challenging in their own regard because it was on the Nintendo Switch, so it wasn't as graphically, the graphics for it weren't the greatest, and they weren't the worst. They just, they were different. So like the graphics for this one are like perfect, especially when compared to what the graphics we had for Rise and then World, which World was graphics were phenomenal as well. But all in all, based off story, weapon crafting, abilities, armor, the monsters and their uniqueness, as well as the guardian monsters you can fight in their uniqueness, which is really different and a new aspect to the Monster Hunter universe as well. And just the playability of this game, as well as just like everything else that comes with it. And then the world expansion and how you can transverse and everything. I love this game, and I would literally give this game a good rating of an 8. Okay, that's my opinion. I rate this game as an 8, and I don't know why I said hate. Sorry, but as an 8, it's a strong 8 for me. I really enjoyed this game. It's very good, very thorough, very well made, and it's a good game for those who are trying to jump into Monster Hunter for the very first time, in my opinion. So, especially if you don't have nobody to play with or guide you. So definitely, if you're interested, check out this game. Monster Hunter Wilds is phenomenal, and I give it a solid 8, hands down. Okay, and then that's really it. That's my opinion on Monster Hunter Wilds. I feel like it is the perfect game for a beginner for when it comes to Monster Hunter. So definitely dive in, check the game out. If you're interested in everything that I said, especially the story is phenomenal. Okay, I didn't really go into depth with the story too much, just enough, but the story is way phenomenal. And just the ecosystem and fighting the monsters and the graphics, it's just a beautiful piece together world. Okay, and don't get me wrong, I love Monster Hunter World. I do love Monster Hunter Rise, not as much as World, but I do love those two games. But this game literally brings different aspects to the Monster Hunter World, or series I should say, and it's just uniquely beautiful. So definitely check it out. Like I said, solid 8. And that's really it. That's all I have to say. As always, I'm your boy Ideal Tone, and I'm just glad that I was able to make that known. I will catch you guys later.
By Dino.